The story of Gog and Magog is found primarily in the Hebrew Bible, specifically in the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39. Gog is described as a prince from the land of Magog, a distant and mysterious region, often considered to be in the north. According to the prophecy, God will gather a great army from many nations to invade the land of Israel in the latter days. The prophecy states that this invasion will be a test of Israel's faith and a sign of the coming of the end times. The forces of Gog and Magog will come like a storm, attacking the people of Israel. However, God promises that He will intervene in a miraculous way. God will bring down natural disasters, including a great earthquake, torrential rains, and hailstones mixed with fire and brimstone, to defeat Gog and his armies. The destruction of Gog will be so complete that it will serve as a demonstration of God's power to all the nations of the world. In Jewish eschatology, the battle against Gog and Magog is seen as a precursor to the Messianic age. The defeat of Gog is believed to mark the beginning of a time of peace and divine rule, where the people of Israel will live in security and harmony under God's protection. The story is symbolic of the ultimate triumph of good over evil and the vindication of God's chosen people. Scholarly interpretation in Judaism, Jewish scholars have interpreted the story of Gog and Magog in various ways. Some see it as a literal future event that will occur at the end of days, while others interpret it as an allegory representing the eternal struggle between good and evil. Many scholars have tried to identify Gog and Magog with historical or contemporary nations, often associating them with hostile powers threatening Israel throughout history. Rabbinic interpretations also explore the significance of this battle in the context of Jewish messianic expectations. Some view it as a final test or trial that must occur before the Messiah's arrival, while others see it as a metaphor for the spiritual conflicts that must be resolved before the world's ultimate redemption. #2. The story of Gog and Magog in Christianity ** in Christianity. The story of Gog and Magog appears prominently in the book of Revelation, the final book of the New Testament. Specifically, Revelation 20 verses 7 to 10 describes a prophetic vision where Gog and Magog play a crucial role in the events of the end times. According to the Christian tradition, after the 1,000-year reign of Christ, also known as the millennium, Satan will be released from his imprisonment. He will then go out to deceive the nations in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, gathering them together for a final battle against the saints and the beloved city, which is often interpreted as Jerusalem. The forces of Gog and Magog will surround the city, prepared for a great conflict. However, before they can launch their attack, divine intervention occurs. Fire comes down from heaven and devours the armies of Gog and Magog, and Satan is finally defeated and cast into the lake of fire, where he will remain for all eternity. This event marks the ultimate end of evil and the establishment of God's eternal kingdom. #. Scholarly interpretation in Christianity. Christian scholars interpret the story of Gog and Magog in several ways, depending on their theological perspective. Some view the prophecy as a literal future event that will occur at the end of times. In this interpretation, Gog and Magog represent the final rebellion against God and His people, led by Satan himself. Other scholars interpret the story symbolically. They see Gog and Magog as metaphors for the forces of evil that oppose God's kingdom throughout history. In this view, the story illustrates the ongoing spiritual battle between good and evil and emphasizes God's ultimate victory over all forms of opposition. Some Christian theologians have also connected the story of Gog and Magog to the earlier references in the book of Ezekiel. They argue that the book of Revelation builds upon the imagery and themes found in Ezekiel. presenting the battle against Gog and Magog as a continuation or culmination of the biblical narrative concerning the struggle between God and the enemies of his people. Throughout Christian history, interpretations of Gog and Magog have also been influenced by historical and geopolitical contexts. Various commentators have identified Gog and Magog with different nations or peoples, often those perceived as threats to the Christian world. This identification has shifted over time, reflecting changing political and cultural circumstances. #3. The story of Gog and Magog in Islam, *** in Islamic tradition. The story of Gog and Magog, referred to as Yajuj and Majuj in Arabic, is mentioned in the Quran and elaborated upon in Hadith literature. They are described as two powerful and corrupt tribes that will play a significant role in the events leading up to the Day of Judgment. #The Qur'anic account of Yajuj and Majuj. The story of Yajuj and Majuj is mentioned in the Quran in Surah Al-Kahf, 18:83-98, and Surah Al-Anbiya, 21:95-96. In Surah Al-Kahf, the narrative begins with a story about a righteous king named Dhul-Qarnayn, who is believed by some to be a great ruler, possibly Alexander the Great or Cyrus the Great, though his exact identity is not specified. Dhul-Qarnayn travels to various parts of the earth, where he encounters different nations and peoples. At one point, he reaches a place between two mountains where he meets a people who complain about the destructive nature of Yajuj and Majuj. They ask Dhul-Qarnayn to build a barrier to protect them from these tribes. In response, he constructs a massive iron and copper wall between the mountains, effectively trapping Yajuj and Majuj behind it. Dhul-Qarnayn declares that this barrier will remain in place until the time appointed by Allah. In Surah Al-Anbiya, it is mentioned that when the time of the end draws near, the barrier holding back Yajuj and Majuj will be broken, and they will surge forth from every height. They are described as a corrupting force that will spread chaos and destruction across the earth. Their release is considered one of the major signs of the Day of Judgment. #Hadith literature on Yajuj and Majuj. The Hadith literature provides further details about Yajuj and Majuj. According to several authentic Hadiths, Yajuj and Majuj will emerge as a powerful and vast multitude, so numerous that they will consume all the resources they encounter. They will drink all the water in rivers and lakes and devastate lands and crops. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, mentioned that Yajuj and Majuj would emerge after the return of Prophet Isa, Jesus, to the earth. Isa will defeat the false Messiah, Al-Masih ad-Dajjal, and soon after, Yajuj and Majuj will break free from their barrier. The Hadiths describe how Isa and the believers will seek refuge on a mountain, praying for protection from the devastation caused by Yajuj and Majuj. Eventually, in response to the prayers of Isa and the believers, Allah will send a type of worm or insect that will strike the necks of Yajuj and Majuj, causing them to perish suddenly. #, scholarly interpretation in Islam. Islamic scholars have interpreted the story of Yajuj and Majuj in various ways. Some view it as a literal account of future events, believing that Yajuj and Majuj are real tribes or nations that will emerge in the end times. They interpret the descriptions in the Quran and Hadith as prophetic indications of the trials and tribulations that will precede the Day of Judgment. Other scholars see the story symbolically, interpreting Yajuj and Majuj as a representation of forces of chaos, corruption, and widespread social and moral decay. In this view, the story emphasizes the moral and spiritual challenges humanity will face before the final judgment. The exact identity and location of Yajuj and Majuj have been the subject of much debate among Islamic scholars and historians. Some have attempted to identify them with historical groups such as the Mongols or other nomadic tribes, while others argue that their true nature and location are known only to Allah. Overall, the story of Yajuj and Majuj in Islam serves as a reminder of the ultimate power of Allah, the inevitability of the Day of Judgment, and the importance of faith and righteousness in the face of trials. This concludes the story of Gog and Magog, Yajuj and Majuj, in the three Abrahamic religions. If you have any questions or need further details, feel free to ask.